Today we're doing a bit of work on an old 1970 HT Premier. Now he's got a complaint, there's a funny noise when you're driving it. There's some thumping noise, and he's also got a few oil leaks there, so we're just going to investigate it. These have got the Trimatic, cable operated Trimatic 3-speed transmissions. Now if you have a look, there's a little cable here just behind the selector, behind the brake booster there, and that's actually connected up to the kickdown. You'll see the later Trimatics had an electric solenoid kickdown, but these older ones had the cable kickdown. So the idea is, just before your accelerator hits the floor, this cable should be almost tight. So what you do is you get someone to hold the accelerator right down, and you just want to make sure that when they back off a little bit, there is a little movement there. You don't want to be stretching this cable all the time. If you over tighten it, it's going to be operating at kickdown all the time. So you want it to be just there when you floor the accelerator. You can see there's a bit of thread there, you can adjust it up or down. Now over here we've got the vacuum hooked up to the modulator, where they've put clamps on it. You don't generally need to put clamps on vacuum lines, but anyway, probably because they haven't shaped the pipe, should be almost pushing into that fitting. You always want to bend it so it's pulling into the fitting, not pulling out, otherwise you'll have to put clamps and things on it. Because it's sharing the vacuum to the brake booster, you want to make sure that the brake booster's sealed properly as well, or it's going to be leaching all that vacuum off that port anyway. And you can see that one's quite loose, so that's another little issue we have to address. I'm going to go out for a test run, and as the vehicle's moving, there's this thump, thump, thump. Couldn't work it out. It sounds like it's coming on the left side there on the wheel. So we thought we'd better just lift it up and have a look. And if you can notice this, they've actually put the cross member in upside down, and the extension housing there is hitting, or very close up against the floor pan there. But what's actually making that noise is the grease nipple. The grease nipple, you can see it's cleaned a little mark there, so it's hitting the floor. So if we take that grease nipple off, it shouldn't make that thumping sound. But still have to put this tail shaft back down. So you can see we've got this much space here, and bugger all, can't even get my fingers in the front here. So they've had a crack at putting the transmission in, but they've somehow managed to put that cross member in upside down. There also are quite a few oil leaks there. Back from a test run, looks like the planetaries and the pump's gone in this, squealing in park and neutral, and first and second gear you can hear the planetaries whining. So we're going to pull it out, put a changeover in. We're also going to do a linkage repair. You can see that the metal's gouged right into that, so just fixing that up. The way we do it, we just put a bit of MIG weld in there and just grind it flat. Should last a bit longer. We'll put the cross member back on the right way so we don't get that problem hitting the bottom of the floor there. And we'll probably replace this drive plate as well. On the 6-cylinder ones, they always, because of the firing order, they'll wear in 3 places. One spot where it usually sits due to the compression of the motor, will wear out more than the other two. So we've taken the oil out of it, and starting off, taking the tail shaft off. Going to disconnect the handbrake cable. You just lever this and just unhook it there. Then we're going to take off the cross member. Remove the little nut on the selector linkage there. The cooling lines. Disconnect the kick-down cable. Then remove the bolts off the torque converter. And then basically we're just left with taking the starter motor off and the bell housing bolts. So take off the tail shaft bolts first. Unhook the handbrake cable linkage. Got the cross member off. We'll take this mount off as well. Support the manual linkage when you're undoing it. Pop out that vacuum line, undo the speedo cable. Then we get a 1/2 inch pipe spanner and a 9/16 open ender. Support the fitting with the 9/16. And we'll just take off this back one just so we can suck all the oil out of the torque converter with our vacuum pump. Just makes things a bit less messy. The torque converter bolts. And just push the torque converter into the transmission just so it comes out with the transmission. Don't leave it on here or you'll get in strife trying to get it out. So we just push it in as far as it'll go. Now we can take off the starter motor, 2 bolts. We've disconnected the battery. We're just taking the bell housing bolt, the one that goes on the filler tube. And we're going to disconnect the kick-down cable. You've got to take this 1/2 inch bolt off because it holds that cable in place. Just disconnect that cable at the top there. And then you can just slide that out and the cable just pops out like that. And we just need to remove the other 3 bell housing bolts. There we go, transmission's out. Because someone else has worked on it, you want to just make sure that it's got a dowel pin either side of the transmission. Sometimes people leave them out. We're replacing the drive plate or flex plate on this. Good idea to put a little bit of grease in there where the front spigot is on the front of the torque converter, just to make it come out easier. The cooling lines, you can get a spray that you spray through to flush it out, but you do need to make sure those cooling lines are fully clean, especially if your transmission was full of metal. What we do is we put a container here with a hose going from there, and we suck fluid through until there's clear and clean fluid coming out into the vacuum pump. Make sure you replace all your vacuum lines on them, and replace all the O-rings, speedo O-ring and the filler tube O-ring. Anyway, I hope that helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Throw me a beer if any of this information has helped. Thank you for watching.